Hello, welcome back to Humble Running. Today we've got a long overdue Q&A session. I have had questions just piling up. I was away previously for 2 weeks. If you followed the channel, I was on a little bit of a family vacation leading into the Beaverhead 100K. I did put out a bunch of videos while I was on the road, shoe testing, race pick shoes. I'm going to talk about that a little bit to start off today. Also going to go into, as you can see, lots of shoes in for testing. I came home to, aside from gear and maybe a few other things, nutrition, hydration, 11 new pairs of shoes in for test. So a lot to get to. I don't think I actually have all 11 different shoes out here today. Some of them you've seen videos on the channel on road running shoes. Don't have those here, but I have a big 4-day test review and video coming up this coming Wednesday, so keep an eye out for that. Right now, let's get right into the Q&A. First, we'll talk a little bit about the race. Beaverhead 100K, difficult race for me. I raced Roner 108K. Just a month before that, my race shoe was the On Cloudultra Pro here. This is the exact shoe that I ran in, of course. I didn't really consider that shoe for the Beaverhead race because the Beaverhead race is up on the Continental Divide. I knew from previous experience, I wore the normal Chirac last year for the 55K version. My feet got completely destroyed. It's up on the Continental Divide. The average is 8,500 feet of elevation for 100K, which is pretty high for me. I'm 2,700 here in Boise. You know, maybe for people out in Colorado that doesn't sound like a lot, but that is up there and it will affect you. And that does include a big chute at the end where you come down a little bit lower, but you start up on the divide, run the whole course up on the divide, then come down at the end. So you have significant portions up above 9,000 feet. Going into the race, my main consideration was foot protection based on my experience last year in the 55K in those Chirac. So if you pay attention to my videos before the race, and actually the morning of the race, I released a video releasing my shoe pick, which was the North Face Vectiv Pro 3. I had received this shoe just before I went on the trip, so luckily I had them in hand, and the stack on this shoe is just completely massive. Check out my videos. Again, 2 videos, one just before the race, one just the morning of the race, detailing lots of specs and all this stuff on the shoe, but 40 plus under the heel, just massive stack, 2 plates built into this shoe. As I was running in it, the weight was kind of a factor for me. I don't typically run in like 11-ounce shoes, especially over longer distances like that. I like to kind of be in the mid-10s range, or some of these super shoes like Tecton X3, Adidas Terrex, Speed Ultra, those kind of things. Those are in the 9-ounce range, 9.5-ounce range. So significant difference going up to 11 ounces in that shoe. But again, I really went into this race thinking foot protection was a priority. I did not want to have my feet destroyed again like they were last year. And in that regard, they were great. This is a lot of shoe, a lot of bounce. There's just, it's just, I talk about this in my 2 videos there, so much going on underfoot. There's like a propulsion plate, there's like a stability cage with these wings right here. It's just really a lot to control, but that being said, there's a lot between your foot and the ground. So I got through 100K. I had some difficulties during the race. It was a tough race for me. I think leading into it, being on the road for 2 weeks, it was July 4th. We had a kind of a big party at a friend's family house. I was just like having beers, like ate a bunch more impossible hamburgers than I would ever eat under normal circumstances, just being more or less on vacation for 2 weeks, also in a travel trailer. So we were kind of like not in a house the entire time. The week leading into the race, my wife was working in the travel trailer remotely, and I had to like be outside all day, and it was like 100 degrees that week. So I was by the pool. I was just really outdoors in 100-degree weather, like for the 3, 4, 5 days leading into the race. All in all, not your ideal taper situation leading into a race. I had a little tightness in my hip flexor, just like a storm of things like weren't exactly ideal for that race, and the fact that I had run 108K previously a month prior, so I knew this race going in was not going to be my best. I ended up finishing 10th. I got it done. I really the hip flexor thing as I was running was giving me a lot of problems. So I was actually considering DNFing in the middle of that race, but I kind of like ran across a few friends who were also struggling. Not that that's, you know, there's something in like commiserating with people that you know on the course, or maybe that you don't even know. Just being amongst people that are also struggling and suffering, it kind of like gave me a little bit of perspective, like, okay, gotta keep going. I got this 208K thing going. The course is totally wrecking me here. I don't know if I want to come back and do it again, so I better get it done this year. And that's what I did. So out on the course, the shoe was great. Again, my feet came away pretty well protected. The only issue I did have, I would say, is that I did get some blistering, edge blistering on the sides of my big toe, both left and right foot. And I talk about that with the Vectiv shoes a lot. Sometimes it's the rocker that really squeezes your toes, as this kind of, it pushes your toes together at the front, this being your big toe if it was up here. And I was just getting like pushed into here. I guess with all the technicality and the foot moving, I got edge blisters, pretty decent. Didn't affect me during the race, but after the race I had some, you know, on the inside and of my left and right big toes there. Didn't necessarily affect me during the race, I just kind of felt it throughout. Other than that, I would say my feet were pretty good. I had no impact damage, which again, fly went in my mouth. Which again, that was my main concern going into the race. I wanted to get through this race with my feet intact and not have to stop because of my feet, or just get destroyed because of my feet. And I think this definitely did the trick. Again, I had those hip flexor things. It could have been the weight of the shoe causing that. Just a lot of weight to drag. Again, not the ideal leading into the race, but overall I think it was an okay shoe, but I'm not sold. I may have wanted to try something different, but we'll talk about that in a second here. So the shoes themselves, a couple of things here, they took some pretty significant damage. If you look here, I've got a pretty good gouge here. This is my left shoe, and this left shoe seemed to take a lot more damage. I've got a pretty big cut in the midsole there. If you see that, really sliced through. Again, this course was on the divide. Pretty big gouge here. There's a couple of other spots here up front. You know, this is not full coverage rubber. Again, here's the other side here. Took out a chunk down here. The right shoe is okay for some reason, so I don't know what it is, what I was doing with my left foot as opposed to my right foot, but definitely the left shoe, I would say significant damage. I did not notice this during the race at all. It's not like, oh, I felt like my shoe was falling apart, but after the race I checked it out, and yeah, there's a big slice here, big slice in the front. I don't know about, this is a different type of foam than is in the Endurus, and I think maybe I'm not sure about previous Pro models like this one. I ran, again, 100K Kodiak in this race here. This is pretty exposed, but there's no midsole damage here. It feels kind of similar. This may even be a little bit softer, but the level of rockiness on the course that I ran with this shoe was not even close to what was on this shoe. So these kind of things may be very particular to that course that I did run. So I can't say for sure. I don't want to call the shoe out as having durability issues, but in that type of technical, rocky, like very sharp type of terrain, maybe you want to go with maybe some full coverage underfoot here. So let's jump right into some questions. I mainly looked at those two North Face videos, a little bit about the Cloudultra Pro there. Just go through some Q&A questions, see what people have to say. Nils Kaufman, 1725. How would you compare the Vectiv Pro 3 against the Endurus 4 on technical descents, if comparable for sure? The Endurus 4 also quite high stacked and tend to rebound when running downhill. That's why I'm asking. I don't have my Endurus 4 with me right now, but this one, more stack underfoot, way more bouncy. Even the first run, I took these out and Palisades Tahoe when I was running a kind of steepish fire road type descent, and I was shocked how much bounce I was getting out of these. So I would say it's a noticeable difference on bounce. And this question is talking about technical descents. I had a bit of that during the race. It's tricky to control. I would say the Endurance 4 is probably better in technical descents because the foam is less. It's not a low stack shoe, but compared to this, you definitely feel closer to the ground in the Endurance 4. This one you feel pretty far up there, and it's just a lot more bouncy foam. And I don't know, it does have that kind of, the Endurance 4 has the chassis, this has the chassis, but also it has the carbon propulsion plate in here, so you have another extra plate level in here. So it's definitely more tricky to control in any type of descent, especially technical descent. So I think the Endurance 4 would perform better. Would I choose that shoe for the race? Possibly, you know, I'm not quite sure. I might have to take them out side by side to really think about it. I didn't have the Endurance 4. I didn't have that much time to really feel it out. I just had a couple of test runs up in Sandpoint, Idaho to feel out this shoe. And again, I was really thinking about just the protective aspect. As far as would I go back, and if I had time to really, you know, check this shoe against the Endurance 4, I might go with the Endurance 4 just because it is a little lower to the ground. Again, that shoe, it felt a little slower. It definitely feels slower to me. This one you get more bounce, more this, but it's a little bit more weight and a little more unstable. So in that particular course, I would have to really test it out in detail. Next one coming from Berry5954. How is the midfoot compared to the On Running Ultra Pro? I think he's talking about Cloudultra here. This would be interesting as a rotation from the Norda 005 instead of the Ultra Pro. How does it compare to the Tecton X3? And he did clarify the midfoot width. So this On Running Cloudultra Pro here, the width in here, I have a US 10 here, equal US 10 here. This is a quite wide shoe. I would say one of the widest of the super shoes. I'm trying to think if there's a wider super shoe than this. There's definitely more width in this shoe compared to the Pro 3. I find this width adequate, but there's a noticeable taper. Again, I talked about having those edge blisters on the side of my big toes. None of that here. I ran a different course in this shoe, less technical for sure, but still very rocky, still somewhat technical. Not an easy course runner in this shoe, but you can see how over here and maybe even on the big toe side, there's definitely a difference there. Maintains width up in the front. I would say I have another shoe similar to this one in a smaller size. I'm going to talk about that for comparison here, but again, my 10 is definitely spacious, roomier in the forefoot compared to this one. Compared to the Tecton X3, I would say they're a little bit similar. I think I get better foothold in this one compared to the X3. I have the X3 in a US 10, and I think this is a bigger toe box. The X3 has that booty upper. It just feels like this one does hold the foot better than the Tecton X3. So width may be comparable, but I feel a little bit better in here. Maybe even a touch more volume in this shoe than the X3. Moving down here, this one comes from G. Rollinson. Thank you. Awesome reviews with the Pro 3. Any issues with the wing bite on techie trails or terrain with lateral roll? He talks about some running he's done and with. He talks about his wife having blisters on both big toes solved with moleskin. Wondering if the Pro wing is any different. So we're talking about these wings right here. Big toe side, I believe. I did not feel these at all. I think they, at least for me, wherever the edges of these wings are, I think they solve the problem in this shoe for me. I ran Kodiak again in this shoe. This has these straight wings. North Face did tell me it was something of a production issue, how these flexed. I'm not so sure about that. I did notice, I have a video, in my video here, when I'm standing in this shoe, this part, and I put pressure on the ball of my foot, it tended to angle into the side of my shoe. So in the Kodiak race, I noticed this pressing into just below my big toe. I felt it. It didn't cause any bruising, irritation, issues, or anything like that, but it was definitely a noticeable thing with this wing. With the Pro 3 here, it's a different kind of edge here. Well, we're talking about this side, but in any case, you can see how they widened it out. And again, this is not the carbon plate, this is the chassis plate. So they have a carbon plate separate. This was all one plate set up in this shoe. Here it's a separate plate, so I think it kind of, I did not notice this angling towards my foot at all. Like, I did not feel this or this at all at any point in any run. Whereas with this shoe, I always kind of felt it pushing in, although it didn't cause me issues. So I would say if that's an issue, specifically with that shoe, it's better in the Pro 3. Different shoes though, of course. Another one from Berry5954. If you put the boomerang in the Tecton X3, for me that changes foothold completely. Yes, I haven't played around with insoles in the Tecton X3. I got a pro tip to add an additional, to punch additional eyelet hole in the Tecton X3 and do some lace locking at the top, aside from those kind of gilly eyelet things, lace things. I'm gonna try that actually. For the Vectiv, I'm only afraid of the bounce downhill. Really considering buying them. What size do you have them compared to your Norda 005? I talked about the bounce downhill previously. As far as sizing, I've got this in a 10. My Norda 005, I would say I have two sizes. The comparable one is the US 10.5. So 10.5 Norda 005, 10 Vectiv Pro 3. The 005 and 10.5 feels equal in length to this 10 right here. I feel like the Nordas again run just a little bit relatively short, but the 005 and the 10.5 is very voluminous, very wide. So it has a wider feel and wider upper volume than this shoe, but equal length with a half size up in the Norda, if that makes sense. So generally speaking, the Norda is going to be just, it's just going to run shorter. And so if you go up in size, you're going to get more volume, but you'll get more correct length, if that makes sense there. Next one from Gabriel Marias 972. Hi, what will be your consideration over this shoes with Prodigio Max for 50 to 100K? Okay, I believe that's in regarding this one. And if you see, I do have the Prodigio Max right here. Unfortunately, this is a US 10. Talk about sizing a lot in the La Sportiva shoes, the Prodigio Pro, US 10.5 here. Got this in a 10. It's definitely a roomier fit. I have not run in the shoe. I have tried it on. It's definitely more of a comfort upper, more cushion underfoot, but in the US 10, this is really just, maybe it's a good thing that I got it. It's confirming my kind of sizing advice that you want to go full size up in these La Sportiva shoes, both the Pro and the Max. I have these in a 10, which is a half size up from my true to size, and I'm in it, I'm okay. Maybe with a thin sock, it's okay, but I feel just a little bit, my toes very close to the front here, and then when I'm flexing the shoe, like when I squat down and kind of test, you know, curling up or getting into a squat position, then my toes kind of get into the front of this toe box here. So I'm getting a return label for these, and hopefully I'm going to get the correct size in the US 10.5. Now, I'm not quite sure. This is not a light shoe. I weighed this out. It may be a little bit lighter than this one. There's no plate involved. I think there's a speed film in here. Nothing propulsive by any means. I really would have to try it out before I could give a definite recommendation on this. This one, I think this one is going to give you a more traditional kind of cushioned feel. Again, this midsole foam is really great from La Sportiva. I tried this one. The foothold is excellent. Probably just as good as this shoe. Different setup. There's no booty here, but I felt super strapped in the mid. It just felt like a really great upper, and upper fit and security does go a long way in technical terrain. So I really have to run in the shoe before I don't want to just give out blanket recommendations, but I would think this would give you a more traditional feel than you're used to. This is definitely something wild that you have to get used to. Some people may enjoy this kind of thing, but I think a majority of runners may agree with this type of shoe more. I'll say that. Dallas ISC3. What is the reason you aren't considering the Cloudultra Pro? Just curious. I'm running my first 50 miler and your feedback on these things has helped me a lot. I talked about that before. I ran this in a slightly less technical, although still very rugged race. I think this is definitely a better racing shoe in most circumstances than this one. I would prefer this shoe definitely over this one. Again, I went with this one really with the purpose, not necessarily of running faster or, I don't know, feeling lighter, or that I wanted to really protect my foot. Not that I didn't think it was the case in this one. This one also has super wide base here. I talked about having a bit more stability in that technical terrain. This one is definitely narrower over here, and kind of look at the, I don't know if you could tell based on this type of angle, this one just feels like I'm higher and I'm a little bit taller, so I was a little bit concerned about stability on this one. Definitely in runnable, moderate terrain, this shoe is a bomber shoe. So I really just went with this one for the foot protection aspects, and again, I thought given so much action underfoot in this one, given that they made this so wide, I thought I could control it, and you know, I did. I just ultimately wasn't sure if it was the fastest pick. So again, I would generally, I don't know, pick this shoe, I would say. This one comes from Trail Runner Reviews. How do they feel hiking? Some of these carbon plated type shoes feel funky when you power hike with them. V1 was not fun power hiking steeper inclines or getting up rock light stairs. Yeah, they talked about, I think, uphill efficiency. There was that study from Salomon. I think On also did some testing that carbon plated shoes don't have or aren't as efficient going uphill with the stiffness of them. This question is in regards to the Pro 3 actually. No, I don't think this is a good hiking shoe. Too much going on underfoot, too unstable. Like if you want like a solid, stable hiking shoe, you could go for stack, you could go for cushion, width, all that. You just don't need all this action underfoot. It's definitely, this shoe relies with all this stack, all this action, it relies on bounce. So it's heavy, but it relies on getting a lot of bounce as part of the ride. And with hiking, obviously, you're not bouncing off the ground. You're kind of just, you're hiking, you're walking. So not a recommendation for hiking. I would not recommend that. In regards to the race, I have a couple of shoes in for test. I'm going to start working in some of these in for test shoes. I've got the Tecton X2 MAP collaboration. That's MAAP, which is a cycling brand based out of Australia. I kind of forgot how good the Tecton X2 was. I have an article up on humblerunning.com. You can read some of my thoughts on this shoe. It's just, I've run, let's see, probably 300 milers in versions of the shoe, version 1 and 2. Between 1 and 2, they changed the upper. Version 2 upper is a little bit better, definitely better than version 1. 3 is a totally different shoe. This shoe, again, it seems a little, it's a little bit firmer than a lot of these super soft foams, Helion, HF, this Dream foam here, certainly the Piba. Similar in this T1 and the Tecton X3. It's a firmer type of foam. It's a dual ProFly setup, but it's going to feel more stable, of course. Again, it feels a little bit stiffer. It doesn't feel like the newest generation of trail super shoes, but it is solid. I got this shoe after I got back from Beaverhead, and I wish I would have gotten it before the race, somehow along the way, or maybe at home before I left on the trip. It would have jogged my memory on how well I did in some of those 100 milers in this shoe, because I think on that course you want just enough protection, again keeping my feet in good shape throughout the race, but you still want some cushion, but you don't want it to be you want it to be controllable. And I think that fits a lot of the build here. Plus, this is light. This is under 10 ounces in the shoe. This is super light. I love this colorway, by the way. Gray, light colored. This is their kind of signature reflective thing here. You don't have the giant Hoka logo here. I'm trying to think. There's a Hoka. Oh, here we go. It says Hoka right here. It's the tiniest little logo there. Beautiful shoe here. I'm just gonna be running in this shoe when I get a chance, just to get a feel for it. I may, who knows, like, I don't know what races I'm gonna get into next, but I think if I were to go back in a parallel universe and have another shoe choice with everything in front of me for Beaverhead, this would definitely be over this shoe, I would say. May have another shoe in consideration for that race, but this would be a top pick. X2 making a comeback? No, not really, but new colorways at least there. Let's see. Speaking of race picks, another shoe, Fuga EX Pro. Couple videos I put out. I did a run in the EX Pro, EX3. I may take this one out later today. This is from Kalos. This is another great shoe. 5 mil drop here. I'm gonna do a full review of this shoe. I'm just kind of, I think it's in the mid 10 ounce range. Solid shoe, super critical. TPU foam here, X-shaped carbon fiber plate. The upper fit is just spectacular in the shoe, and the ride is just smooth. A little bit of stiffness with the carbon plate, but I find that it's very adaptable to technical terrain, very protective underfoot. I just want to call out, like, again, if I could go back in time before Beaverhead, and if I had these two shoes, I would probably be putting these two side by side against each other for the Beaverhead race. These would be, out of the stuff I have now, I still might think about the On, but probably not, given the technicality of that course. But these are the probably top two shoes I would be considering for that race. Don't know which one though. I have to, again, I have a couple runs maybe in each of them. Trying to think back, I have so many shoes in for test at the moment. I would do a few more runs in each of those and kind of decide there. Since I got back, I was able to finally release my edit and release my comparison video between the Mount to Coast T1 and the Prodigio Pro here. Both excellent shoes. I think as far as daily training, they both have more range than that, but if you want to have like a super comfortable and versatile daily training shoe, these are two top options there. I mean, if you don't want to go heavier and more cushy. A couple of comments here. This one's from Sty and Skis. They raised the price of the Prodigio Pro to $225. I believe it was $185. There's no carbon fiber plate in here. I think it has the performance of a super shoe. You see this at even Western States, definitely Golden Trail, World Series, Lavaredo, those type, I mean, sponsored by La Sportiva, but it's super shoe type performance without the carbon fiber plate. There's a lot good in this shoe. I think I answered a question from somebody else about the price, and there was definitely production shortages in this. I don't know if that's a tariff type situation or just the popularity of the shoe, which was unexpected. I know it was out of stock in a lot of places for quite some time. So assuming they had to do additional production runs, do additional importing with the tariff situation being what it is, I don't know if that affects both the importing side and also the production side. If you have to produce more shoes than you expected, materials, import more shoes than you had planned, that may play a factor in. So unfortunate that that's $225. Let's see, maybe the Prodigio, this one comes from Robert Lynn 9667. Maybe the Prodigio Max compares better to the T1. So, talking about the Max, as far as my comparison video comparing to this one, I don't think so. This is, again, I think mid 9 ounce range. This is mid 10s, so this has notably more cushion than either of these shoes. It's certainly obviously positioned as going up in cushion and protection from the Prodigio Pro, and I felt obviously in my video that the Pro and this one are so very close. So I don't think this shoe is more comparable to the T1. I think it's probably a step up in cushion and a little bit more comfort for longer distances than either of these two shoes. Although, you know, Mount to Coast athletes are running in all kinds of Mount to Coast shoes for very long distances. So not that you can't take this shoe long. I just think, generally speaking, in terms of weight, cushion, those type of specs, this shoe is definitely moving up from those two. Let's see, great video, thanks. VJ Ultra compared to these. Thanks again. Ultra 3, forgot to bring that one out. That one has the most foot-shaped toe box. I'll point out this one. It does narrow a little bit for me up at the front of the toe box, especially steeper descents. I noticed my big toe rubbing. I think I had somebody that had a similar issue in the comments. Not so with the VJ Ultra 3. That one widens out almost like a topo. So I would say compared to these, toe box is definitely different. I would say the Ultra 3 is the widest, most foot shape, then this one being more precise in terms of toe box with foot shape, dialed in fit in the toe box. I think these are denser foams underfoot. The Ultra 3 does have that rock plate in it, and the foam just feels softer and more airy. It has a softer feel underfoot, and I think that doesn't help it in technical terrain. In technical terrain, I think this is the better shoe because the foam just feels energetic, yet still denser and more stable. The Ultra 3 mixes in a firm plate with a lighter, kind of softer foam. So I just feel like, I don't know, it's a little squishy in technical terrain. I feel that softness gives me a little kind of wobble when I'm in technical terrain. So I might do an A/B test, we'll see. I noticed the Prodigio Pro being warm out here on the East Coast. Need a matrix upper and remove the inner liner around the toe box. Yeah, I think I actually did mention that in the video. There's a full, this booty liner extends way inside here. So this is essentially the upper of the shoe is a knit liner with this mesh wrapped around it. So I have my fingers in between those two layers now. I could see it's obviously very dry out here in Boise. Not obviously. It's very dry in Boise. High desert climate. A lot of these races out west are not humid. So I could see this. I did a wet test in this shoe, and it did seem to hold on to a lot of water because it's not an engineered mesh. It's kind of a knit material here. So it will hold water, and if it's humid, that could potentially be an issue. Something to consider there. Next question from RMS. It took years for Topo to finally ditch their proprietary gaiters just in time for the T1 to introduce their own dead-on arrival proprietary gaiters. I disagree. Sorry. I don't think this is a bad thing. And as far as proprietary goes, Topo had that one that hooked into the heels. It was like extremely proprietary. You needed a Topo gaiter. It's kind of weird. Fuga also has a gaiter here. They have attachment points on the side, but also another loop right here. So it's a 4-point system, 2, 3, and then 1 up front here. Again, you don't necessarily need these side ones. So you have the one in the front and the one in the back, and that's generally good enough here. Mounted Coast, this is not too proprietary. Again, one hook here, and then you hook one somewhere along the laces, and that works perfectly fine. I think it's great. And surprisingly, the Mafate 5 put a gaiter attachment point on here. So again, 1, 2. So if you have a gaiter that has one hook on the back, it can work with all 3 of these shoes. The Topo one is a different story. They had 2 spread out hooks that were like right here. That was definitely like a weird, setup that would only work with the Topo gaiter. So don't agree here. Like to have a gaiter when necessary, or sometimes we got a lot of moon dust around here, so it's good to have a gaiter in certain conditions. And why not throw, this is so small, just throw one on. Come on, companies. Talking about the T1, I bit the bullet and cut out the top speed laces for the included regular laces. Those speed laces loosened up a bit on steep ascents. We're talking about this dual zone lacing system here. Yeah, if you don't like it, you can put in regular laces. I could see some people have talked about lace bite. This is definitely thinner, more bitey type of material than, say, a flat lace going across whatever part of the shoe is giving you pressure across the top of the foot. Also, it's a little different here. You have this thing on the bottom here, and instead of having a cross, you have kind of these 2 going straight across the top of the foot, which is a little unusual. Normally with regular lacing, you'd have an X obviously in the middle of your foot as the lace goes up. Here you have 2 straight bands pressing on the top. So if that's something that could potentially give you issues and you really like the shoe, I mean, you could swap in regular laces there. Call out one thing, in the EX Pro, check out my video again, they have an inline lacing system here. So instead of having a separate lace here as you do with the T1, they have this thing right in the middle. So you just kind of adjust a separate toggle in the middle of the foot, and I actually think this is a better setup because you don't have a second lace. You don't have to worry about tucking this whole toggle in somewhere, and this doesn't give you those two bars going across the top of the foot. It's more of a kind of flatter thing pressing against the top of your foot. So I think that's a little bit better in terms of comfort, less risk of a bite somewhere along the way. Another great comparison video, Prodigio Pro, one of my favorite trail shoes alongside the Evo Speed Goat. Any review of the Cloudultra 3 coming? Okay, quick interlude here. On Cloudultra 3, all black. I don't know why they sent me all black, but this is what I got. I tried one on at TrailCon and definitely wanted to, had a lot of questions about it, wanted to get a pair for comparison, and now I do. I did request a US 9.5 though, so I've got this one, the Pro, in a 10, and this one in a 9.5. I wanted to really dig in on, really love this fit in a 10, but I wanted to kind of see how a 9.5 felt, maybe if this was a shoe that I would want to use more for daily training runs versus this one for racing long distances. Want to have that extra volume for comfort, maybe thicker racing socks, maybe Injinji toe socks in here for a long ultra, which I did at Roner, and maybe this one with a little bit of a snugger fit. So I will have a full review on the way, of course, comparison with this one in the Pro, and I will definitely talk about sizing differences. So Cloudultra 3, yes, I do have it, all black. Before I get into going through some stuff for test, let's talk about recovery. I have right in front of me the Rio Fit A1 massage roller, okay? This has been key for me. Sometimes I come home, you know, you have the foam roller, you kind of get on the floor, you have to support yourself, you have to do like a modified plank to kind of roll out, especially the calf muscles. Maybe the hamstrings are a little easier because you're closer to the roller, but I have a lot of tightness in my lower calves, my upper calves as well, but really that section between my Achilles and my calves really gets me. And rolling out that area is really tough without kind of straining. This one is automatic. There's a button on here, and this thing has some tracks on it, and you just lay down, put yourself on the floor. I lay down on my back just like this, put my feet on this thing, and it just roll. Oh, the battery's dead. But actually, it won't actually work unless these tracks are stable on the ground, so I can't exactly just roll it in the air right here. There are some safety features on here. So there's two different covers on here. This one's a little bit aggressive. Sometimes if I want to do it on my lower or upper back, there's a little bit of cover difference here. This one has some more moderate kind of dimpling on it versus this one being more aggressive. So if I want to do my back, it's kind of a Ziploc situation here. You just kind of, I don't want to take the whole thing off right now because I might actually use this later today for my calves, but it kind of Ziplocks on together right here, on and off, pretty easy. Press the button, there's an app on your phone, and you can control, they have AI powered modes where you can do your upper back, your legs, your upper legs, lower legs. You can control how far it rolls and then save it so it will cover a certain range, and then just do that over and over, or maybe like vary the kind of how much it goes, a little less, a little more. You can create a whole kind of program on their app. So this has been pretty cool. I love it. Again, my main problem area, lower calves above the Achilles, and I just enjoy being able to lay on my back, look in a magazine, scroll on my phone, and have this thing do the work for me. So it's got the tracks on here. Pretty awesome. I think this is a cool product. Rio Fit A1 massage roller. Again, two kind of parts on here. Moving on with recovery, I've got Reland plant protein here. I was on my 2-week trip. I was talking about this. We have a little pantry. We're in a travel trailer. It's obviously, I talked about the difficulties in getting myself prepared and ready for the race. I would go out on some runs and then just, we have a stove like this big, a sink is like this big. It's just like difficult to get the food situation going. You have to plan things out in a small space, not like being home in your spacious kitchen. So I would come back and just mix up this real quick. We have some milk or water, throw this in there. That would be my kind of quick and easy post-run recovery drink there. This is made with fava beans, which I don't know exactly what that means, but it does have a smooth texture to it. It doesn't have that clumpiness and that, I would say, thick graininess that a lot of protein powders have. That's something that I really enjoy about it. I put this in my blender ball shaker there, and it shakes up pretty smooth. It actually froths up pretty good. It has a nice, very kind of light taste to it. So a light texture, that is, to it. It doesn't have that, sometimes you have that protein, you get that, I don't know how to explain it, proteiny, grainy taste in your mouth. This is kind of just very smooth, very chocolatey. Sometimes I throw it in if I make a protein smoothie, mix in with a banana, that kind of thing. Reland plant-based mix here. A little recovery interlude there. Now let's get into some stuff that I got in for test. Hoka Mafate 5. This is the big one, releasing August 1. I cannot talk about too much details on this shoe yet. I did a 14 miler straight out of the box in it. Yes, it's heavier. Yes, they increased the drop to 8 millimeters. Yes, they dropped speed from the name, so kind of tricky. I'm figuring out where they're positioning this shoe. I will say I thought the foothold was really great in this shoe. Can't talk about too much details until August 1st, so I'm going to save all that for the full review. I really feel like this shoe is kind of positioned somewhat closer to this one than, say, the regular Mafate 4, which it is the successor to. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. I'll have to really kind of feel out where it's going to land. So possibly if this is a lot of shoe for you, and this is a lot of shoe, I would say for anyone, maybe this one kind of be a little bit closer for a, say, Super Max shoe for the trails there. Oh, speaking of all black shoes, Arc'teryx LD4. I got to try out Arc'teryx during their demo run at TrailCon. Look at this, all black. I've got the On. Can we have a face off here? All black shoes. Yeah, I don't know, it's like 100 degrees, sunny all the time over here. Save these for the evening runs. Anyway, got to test this one out at TrailCon, and I did a video. Check that out on the channel. I was shocked because I did not like the Gore-Tex version at all. I felt it was stiff, a little bit tippy, heel hold was not good, the foam felt firm to me, and I was getting some pinky side rubbing in the US 9, even though Arc'teryx had supposedly adjusted their sizing, which I find it still runs, I guess, what would you call that? It runs a little bit long, yeah. So I went down to a 9, which was kind of recommended for Arc'teryx, and they were saying that that would be okay. And I found it okay with thin socks, but a little bit uncomfortable. So I tried the shoe on at TrailCon, and I was just, it felt like a completely different shoe. They assured me that the midsole was the same, but I don't know if it was the Gore-Tex upper, the sizing, the increased width in the 9.5 size that I demoed versus the 9 in the Gore-Tex. It just felt like a completely different shoe underfoot, and I just really loved it. So now I have a chance to more thoroughly test it. US 9.5 here. It's a spacious 9.5, so I would say go true to size in Arc'teryx shoes, and you will have plenty of comfortable space. Haven't run in this shoe yet. Again, a lot of stuff I've been running in, so this is just the one that I actually got last after all these other ones. So it is in the queue. I will be putting some more miles in this one. Another cool shoe from Arc'teryx, Salomon Pro. This is, I guess, Salomon Pro 1. I was told they're going to have an updated model spring summer 2026. So they got this one to me for testing. heard a lot of good things about this shoe. Definitely a noticeable rocker on this one, which I think is a departure from Arc'teryx. They don't particularly go with a big rocker. They're more mountain oriented. They don't go with those big rolling, more like ultra type rockers. This shoe looks pretty bomber. This color is pretty awesome. I tried it on, not sold on this knit thing. This is a little bit loose. I'm gonna see how this performs. Very comfortable shoe. Felt great underfoot. Again, pretty fresh. No miles in this one. Again, these are in the queue. They have a similar kind of vamp to some of the Hoka shoes there. Matrix upper here. Very cool. Let's see, what else do I got in front of me here? Oh, I knew I forgot a couple here. Salomon S-Lab Pulsar 4 did 10 miles in this shoe out of the box. They went up in stack. I posted a picture on Instagram. Pretty incredible how version 1 to this version 4, I didn't run in version 2 or 3, how the shoe is different. It's higher, it's like a little bit heavier, but still it's a racing shoe for sure. I think people may look at that 30 plus stack height and think, oh, it could compete with some of these more cushion shoes. I don't really think that's the case. It's still like a speedster. Again, one run in this shoe, a little bit more testing to come, a lot more testing to come. You notice these wing setups here. I got one comment, somebody said, and sent me actually a picture that they had carved all this out. This was digging into their foot. I would say on my run, I noticed that these things are definitely kind of cradling on the outside of your foot, definitely on the inside here. Similar how the S-Lab Genesis has those little bumpers there. Didn't give me any issue. Maybe if you have a wider foot or it just happens to hit you in the wrong spot. This is pretty firm, this edge here. This is just a foam edge, so I could see this potentially being problematic. I'm not so sure. Again, I felt it cradling the foot as I was running. No issues at all. I thought it was quite nice. Another shoe in for test. Knock down my whole pile here. This is the Rabbit High Country Rabbit's first trail shoe. They're going with a carbon plate in this one. This is pretty maximal. I've got more test miles. This is one of the first ones I got when I came back. It's definitely an interesting shoe, a lot underfoot. Look at how much stack is here. It has big toe sweep up at the front. I do notice kind of that inflection point I talk about a lot in my reviews. It's definitely pretty stiff in the rest of the shoe there. And I kind of feel like this is more of a cruiser shoe. I'm going to do a full review on this one. Also got a bunch of Rabbit apparel in for test, so that will be on the way shortly. Rabbit High Country here again. Finally, I have one more question from Run for Fun 75. Great review, and what a nice surprise to see other brands like this. This may be in one of the Kalos videos. Lately, you have tested some pretty nice shoes. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff here. What would your top 5 be halfway through the year? You know what? I think I'm gonna save that one. I'm gonna do another video. This is getting pretty long here, and I think I'm gonna do a top 5. It's more than halfway through the year. Maybe we're gonna call it 3/4 or 2/3 through the year. I'm gonna give you my top 5 shoes in my next Q&A-esque video, or based on one question and answer right there. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. It's been quite a while. I've been wanting to do it for so long, and just ahead of the trip, being on the trip, racing, coming back, sorting out all this stuff, just a lot going on. So just know I am out there putting the miles in, putting lots of testing in to all of these shoes you see in front of you. If you have any questions or comments about what you see, comps that you'd like to see, again, let me know down in the comments. Check the description down below. I always put links to videos that I've done on a lot of these other shoes, or videos that are related to some of the stuff that I talk about in my videos. Always please check out the description. I have affiliate links in there. Click through, help support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. So again, thank you for watching. I will see you in one of my next videos. Stay tuned for the on-road video coming up next this week, and follow-up Q&A sessions. I hope now that I'm more settled, I have a big testing block, training block coming up. I hope to do more Q&As coming up, so hope you enjoyed watching this one. I will see you again out on the trails or in the next Q&A. So thank you for watching.